John, we made it. Preseason football is over. Preseason football is over, John. I don't want to ever see a preseason game ever again.
Cannot wait. Finally, we're going to get to the real stuff here, and especially because the Cowboys they're kicking off the season. Like, we're right around the corner for some real Cowboys action. I'm so excited, and the only hurdle we got to get past is this 53-man roster.
Yeah, it's cut down day, at least here on the Cross Chop podcast. There's already been a couple of cuts made in real life. Lyle Collins is out of the door. I think that's probably a courtesy of being like, hey, we're going to give you a head start on trying to find another team because you helped us so much here this preseason. But that's the only cut we know about coming into this very special edition here in episode 6 of the Cross Chop podcast. That is John Owning of PFF. I'm Nick Harris of this Fort Worth Star Telegram, and we are going to give you our big, trusted 53-man roster. I got this puppy right in front of me. This is the roster that has it broke down by position here. We are going to go position by position here, John, and let's have some fun. Let's really dive into this. First, just overall roster storylines. I think the big one as we're hopping on here is that Trayvon Diggs will be on the initial 53-man roster. That is going to have big implications in not only at the cornerback spot, but in some other places as well. But any overall big picture storyline, 53-man stuff you want to get into before we go position by position here?
No, I mean, my mind is I'm just really, really excited to see what they do at this defensive end position. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting decisions there, and defensive tackle as well. A lot of defensive line in general. There's a lot of, which is, not surprising if anybody knows me that I'm picking the defensive line, but I think they have a lot of really interesting decisions there, and it's going to tell us a lot about what they really value in their roster players and their depth, and how much things like preseason and camp really matter when it comes to making the roster. So it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be like draft pedigree versus preseason production, and I'm really excited to see how it plays out.
Kelly Sheehan, first time catching you live. We appreciate you checking in. We're going to have some fun here. Hopefully we make it worth your time here. So just a couple of housekeeping things we're going to address right off the top before we dive into this 53-man projection. I think there's going to be at least one player that is not on the Cowboys roster right now that makes the 53-man. There's going to be some action happening this week, I would anticipate. We are not going to try to project that because then that would be kind of fools of us. We would be projecting one of a million things that could happen. But we are going to go position by position here. Let's start with the quarterback one. This is probably the easiest one that we'll have going into this projection. Dak Prescott, Joe Milton. I think they keep 2. John Owning, where's your opinion here?
Yeah, totally agree. Dak Prescott, obviously, he's the franchise quarterback. The Cowboys season is going to go basically according to how he plays, I think, this year. A lot of pressure on him. It's going to be a big season for him. And then Joe Milton, I thought in the third preseason game, he finally showed some positives, some sustained positives that really give you a little bit more confidence that he's someone who can be a competent backup for Dak Prescott if you were to miss, a short-term period of time. So, yeah, really easy. Quarterback, Dak Prescott, Joe Milton.
Shout out
to our producer, pen, baby.
Shout out to our producer, Caden Gates. He's got these little graphics for us.
The man.
The thing with Will Grier that I want everybody to keep in mind is I think that we are going to see him initially cut and then brought back onto the 53-man roster before week 1. Injuries have a lot of different, ways that gymnastics are going to be forced upon this roster. Now, there was a rule that was instituted last year around the NFL to where you can put 2 guys on the designated to return injured reserve without having to keep them on the roster for 24 hours. And if y'all are confused, let me know in the chat. This is kind of where the roster construction gets a little confusing. But those 2 guys, I anticipate being Jonathan Mingo. I think he starts on the designated to return IR. And then Kalen Carson, the corner, second-year corner out of Wake Forest. Aside from those 2 guys, if there is anyone else that they want to put on IR, they would have to do it for the season unless they start on the 53-man, wait 24 hours, and then they could put them on the designated to return. So that's where the gymnastics are going to get a little bit interesting. And if there are 1 or 2 of those guys that they designate to return after 24 hours, they put them on IR and they would bring back Will Grier. Will Grier is going to be the first guy that they would bring back in a situation like that. So keep that one in mind. Will Grier is still going to be in Dallas. I fully expect that to happen. And since he is a veteran, he does not have to go through waivers. So that's another part of it. Running back position. This is where we have our first big debate, I think. Javonte Williams, Jaden Blue, those are the safe guys. Any other ones that you consider safe, John?
I would say probably Hunter Lipke, probably just because of all the things that he can do. It seems like Shoddy really likes him. The coaching staff really likes him, and all indications have been that he's going to play another role in the offense and on special teams, and he does a lot on special teams as well. So I think safe is probably maybe a little bit too strong, but I think he's a strong likelihood that he makes the 53.
You said, I'm sorry, who was that again?
Hunter Lipke.
Hunter Lipke, yeah, we are counting him in this situation. Yes, he is safe. We are counting him in the running back numbers. So the fourth one, this is where the debate happens. From what I anticipate, I do not think Phil Maffa is going to be in that group, John. Mm-hmm. And I know some fans are probably going to be pissed hearing that. I think with Phil Maffa, the idea is that there is his style of back is kind of a dime a dozen, whereas if you look at a Jaden Blue or even a Miles Sanders and what he can bring to the table, it is not. It's not me saying that, just bringing that from team perspective. If I am anticipating the running back and how it picture and how it plays out, Javonte Williams, Jaden Blue, Miles Sanders, and then Hunter Lipke. I think those are the four that they take. I think Deuce Vaughn got a lot closer than people realize. I will say that, but I think he gets left off.
Yeah, I think it's – personally, I would rather keep Phil Maffa just because I think he performed better. I think even though his running style is a dime a dozen, if you will, I think he just is competently better than Miles Sanders is at this point. He's more consistent with his reads, his vision. He may not have the home run hitting ability, but he has the tackle breaking ability. He has the strength and the power, the ability to win in short yardage situations, and he's willing to play on special teams. So that's why I would personally go with Phil Maffa. But Cowboys fans, don't fret. Don't fret. This is a 7th round running back who played in arguably what is widely considered the worst running back room in the entire NFL. He's going to get to the practice squad just fine, I think. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I think he's going to make it there just fine. A lot of teams have guys like Phil. That's why they call him his running style a dime a dozen, because a lot of teams have a Phil Maffa. And even though I think he should make it over Miles Sanders, I'm not that worried just because I think he's going to easily make it to the practice squad. We've seen this over and over again with the running back du jour of the preseason making it to the practice squad, whether it was Malik Davis in the past. There's been oodles and oodles of running backs and those type of guys that we thought wouldn't make it because they had some preseason success. But I think that's just we're living in our own bubble a little bit. I think he's going to make it just fine to practice squad.
Okay, that is encouraging to hear, and I like your perspective given that, because I was kind of curious about, are there going to be some teams keeping an eye on this running back situation in Dallas, and if Maffa does end up getting cut on Tuesday, can he clear waivers? Because he will have to in 24 hours. You feel confident that he would?
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty confident. I think there's like a 65-70% chance he clears waivers. I think it's a very high likelihood.
All right, that's a good start. We got 6 on the board already. Let's move on to the wide receiver position. Now, this was one that I was able to pick up some notes over the weekend on. The whole entire training camp, I expected them to take 6 receivers. Turns out they're probably going to end up taking 5. That makes these numbers much, much more interesting here, John. Mm-hmm. I think there's a couple of conversations to be had at wide receiver. Let's go ahead and start with the safe guys, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jalen Tolbert, and Kevontae Turpin. Those are going to be your safe 4, correct?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's a good mix of skill sets. Like I've said, I think they complement each other well. And this gives the Cowboys a really well-rounded receiver room that can give opposing defensive backfields a lot of issues. So I'm very, very excited. This is probably one of the position groups that I'm most excited to see when the season starts for the Cowboys.
Jonathan Mingo, as we mentioned at the top of the show, he will most likely start the season on the designate to return IR. He will not have to start on the 53-man roster, so they can put him on the designate to return as soon as Tuesday and work with the 5 receivers that they choose. The decision that has to be made here basically comes down, you have one spot between Jalen Brooks, Ryan Flanoy, Trayshawn Holden, Josh Kelly, and Jalen Cropper. Josh Kelly, Jalen Cropper, do not expect them to be in the conversation. I don't expect
no crop top season.
Yeah, as much as I love Crop. Look, man, quick side note. If Jalen Cropper was anywhere where Kevontae Turpin was not, I think he would have made a roster at some point in the last couple of years, and he would have been all right. That's just me. I do like Jalen Cropper, but it would be kind of redundant to have him on the same roster as Turpin. And we have a comment here from S Slim 82 Holden, and we've talked about it on the show a couple of times. Holden's special teams value is going to prevent him from making this team. Do not expect Holden to make this team. I'm sorry, guys. When it comes down to this wide receiver 5 spot, the special teams value is so important. And that brings it down to Jalen Brooks versus Ryan Flanoy. And it kind of sounded like Friday night's game against the Falcons was a head-to-head battle for that last spot between Jalen Brooks and Ryan Flanoy. I'm actually going to have an interview out with Jalen Brooks on 4-Star Telegram tomorrow. I caught up with him one-on-one in the locker room after the game, and he was crying. The pressure is really getting to these guys. Ryan Flanoy, same exact situation. But these guys have been super tight throughout the entirety of training camp, and they've really been able to help each other, but they know that the competition is most likely going to come down to one or the other. But I think both of them know that it's probably only going to be one of them. John, I'm going to give you the honors on this one between Ryan Flanoy and Jalen Brooks. Who is our wide receiver 5 that we are taking in this 50?
Going into the third preseason game, I was pretty staunchly in the Jalen Brooks on his side of this debate against Ryan Flanoy, but I was really impressed with a lot of the things that Flanoy did in the third preseason game, and not just as a receiver. He made some really impressive blocks, and that's the way that you make a roster, is showing your utility and willingness to stick your nose in and make plays in those situations. You said in past, and I do agree, that I think the thing that gives Brooks the slight edge is that he is a better, more competent special teams player. So I think I'm still going to be edging it for Jalen Brooks just because of that fact. But Flanoy has made it an almost 50-50 proposition for me. I would not be surprised if they went Flanoy's way, but I'm going to continue leaning Brooks's way just because of the special teams factor and how important that is to this team and specifically.
You know, I think this might be our first opportunity to incorporate producer Caden here, because I think I would take Flanoy. I think he's a tougher player. And look, that is nothing against Jalen Brooks. I think Jalen Brooks is one of the tougher players on this roster. But when you mention the blocking, when you mention what he's been able to do from a special team standpoint, I think I might have the edge to Flanoy. And if Friday night was truly a battle between the two, I think I would take Flanoy. It looks like producer Caden wants Flanoy too. It looks like they're
banging up against me, guys. Help! help!
Flanoy. It looks like that we get wide receiver 5 as Flanoy. I do think this is going to be one of the closer decisions that this staff is going to have to make on this roster, in my opinion. Though,
don't blame anybody for having either one of those guys as their 5th receiver. Not a problem. Like I said, it's super duper close, razor thin edge. So I would not be surprised if it landed either way.
Now, question. We both mentioned that we love these guys as far as, special teams value and what they bring, yada, yada. Would you consider trading Jalen Tolbert?
Yes, 100%. Yes. And the only reason I would do it is because I think his style of play, just like we said about Phil Maffa, that he's a dime a dozen runner. I think Jalen Tolbert is a dime a dozen receiver. I mean, he just doesn't create enough separation. I think he's tough. He can make contested catches. He's a good possession receiver, but he just doesn't create separation. And if you separation, I don't think that you're valuable enough to not be worthy of trading. And he's not like an incredible, outstanding special teamer, that you just have to have type of thing. So I honestly think, especially if you can get someone like a nose tackle or something like that at a position that you really, really need, I would definitely highly consider doing something like that.
Yeah, if you can make a trade for a guy that can contribute, especially on the defensive line or maybe even at the corner spot, that can help you immediately in exchange for Tolbert, I think it's worth seeking out. I mean, you look at what he had last year, 50 receptions, 7 touchdowns. His value is not going to be any higher than it is right now. There's going to be targets taken away from him going into this season. I think this is where you move on from Tolbert and you try to get something out of it. Now, granted, deals don't always, fall in your lap, so it might not work out that way. But if there is a deal on the table, I'm personally doing it. I like Tolbert. I like the man. I like the player. I don't love the player, but I like the player enough to be on the roster. But I think this is a point to where you probably try to maximize the value that he has now and move on, especially when you have George Pickens. You're going to be fine, especially when you have, Kevontae Turpin, who's taking a step forward in training.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that makes him the most easy, makes him most easily traded is the fact that Kevontae Turpin has shown that development, that in the receiver-based skill set. He's getting in and out of his breaks better. He's being more efficient with his route running. He's understanding how to attack leverage a ton better. And I think those traits have allowed you to consider trading someone like Jalen Tolbert because you think that Turpin could be that number 3 guy more consistently this season.
Now, John, timeout with Jeff Sports Podcast. Holden needs to at least make it to the practice squad. They are going to put him on the practice squad if he clears waivers. I expect him to clear waivers. Any concerns there for you, John?
No, I think he's going to make it to the practice squad pretty easy. He was an undrafted free agent for a reason. I don't think undrafted free agents. I need to find this again, but somebody did a study on how there's only a handful of UDFAs every year that get claimed off waivers. So it's if you're a UDFA, you have a very, very, very high likelihood of making it onto your team's practice squad if that's what they want.
And the Cowboys have had one in each of the last 2 years get claimed. Remember the Isaiah Land controversy? Julius Wood last year. Yeah, Jung Binzo mentioning that one. That's so they're at least back-to-back years. They've had one of their UDFAs get claimed, but we'll see if it's 3 years in a row. All right, let's move on to tight end. We have 11 guys on our roster right now. Let's see what we're looking at tight end. Are we taking 4 here? So they're only taking 5 receivers. That's what we expect at least. So there's going to be an extra spot somewhere else. Do you expect that to be on the tight end spot or maybe on the offensive line? What do you want to do here, John?
I think because the tight end position is dealing with a little bit of injuries right now, that they're going to want to go long and go 4 there with the injuries that have occurred. Brevin Spann-Ford and Luke Schoonmaker. So I definitely think they might look to go long there just to have some insurance.
Okay, safe guys, Jake Ferguson, Brevin Spann-Ford. Are we putting Luke Schoonmaker in the safe category?
I wouldn't call him safe, but like I said with Lipke, I think he has a high likelihood to make the squad only because he has the draft capital to his name.
Yeah, agreed.
That makes him more likely to make the team.
So that probably leaves one spot between Princeton Fant and Rivaldo Fairweather. I don't think Tyler Neville or John Stevens have a good shot at making this roster. I think John Stevens might get IR stashed, honestly. He's dealing with knee soreness in the very same knee that he's had back-to-back ACL injuries in. That's just tough for a good player that, flashed at camp a couple of years ago, but I think these injuries are really starting to catch up to him at this point. I don't expect him or Tyler Neville to be on this roster, but you got one spot for Princeton Fant and Rivaldo Fairweather. Both of these guys have gotten first-team reps during training camp. One brings something different than the other. I think Fant, you have more as a downfield blocker. I posted that clip on my Twitter of him just bodying a defensive back out in space on 4th and 1 to pave the way for Joe Milton on a read option. Then you have Rivaldo Fairweather, who has been great in the receiving game. He's been awesome in the receiving game during the preseason. He had the touchdown against the Rams, had that 25-yard catch against the Falcons on Friday night. I'm indecisive between which one you would take here. John, who are you taking?
I'm kind of siding with Fant because I think he gives you a different facet than the other tight ends on the roster. His ability as a blocker to be a lead blocker out in space and to be an inline blocker, that's a valuable skill set to have as a 4th tight end, and the ability to play on special teams. I think that gives him the edge over Fairweather, who has a skill set that's a little more similar to what Luke Schoonmaker can already do, Spann-Ford can already do, and Jake Ferguson can already do. So I don't think adding him really adds anything to the roster besides just being a good person to develop. But I think he's another guy I think you can sneak onto the practice squad, develop him there, while Princeton Fant is the one putting in the dirty work in the trenches as a blocker, in those 3 tight end sets, maybe even the occasional 2 tight end set, heavy 2 tight end set, you bring him in, or maybe you can even put him in the backfield and let him be a lead blocker, play like a little H-back, fullback type stuff. So definitely would give the edge to Princeton Fant.
All right, we got 4 tight ends. We are keeping to the Mike McCarthy system of 4 tight ends and a fullback. So let's have some fun here. 15 guys already on the roster. Let's move on to the offensive line. Now, this is where we're going to have some debate, I feel like. Let's go ahead and start off with the 5 starters. Left tackle Tyler Guyton, which I expect him to not start on IR. I think there's a good chance he plays week 1. We'll get into that in another episode here coming up this week. He is starting to earn some really high optimism towards playing on September 4th. So we got Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe, Tyler Booker, and Terrence Steele. Those are your starting 5. I think your safe backups, you got Nate Thomas, you have Brock Hoffman. Would you put any other guy under the category of safe backup?
No, I think that's about them all.
So we got 2 to 3 spots to play with here. Do we want to take 9 or 10?
I think 9 is going to be more accurate to what they do.
Okay. Let's go one by one here. TJ Bass. Now, as TJ Bass kind of maxed out, we saw what he did in his rookie year, and it was really cool to see. And it was like, man, this could be a starter one day. But I don't feel like he's really improved since then, especially when it comes to getting into the second level in the run game and things like that. I think he's got a limited ceiling. What do you think on TJ Bass?
I think he should make the roster, to be honest. I think he showed well. I think he was arguably your best backup offensive lineman in the preseason in totality, especially when he was playing guard and not center.
Okay.
I think his ability to be a backup interior offensive lineman is good. He's solid. He can plug in and play for a few plays if need be, or a couple games if need be, and he's not going to be a total liability. So I think he's someone who's valuable to have on the roster, and I like having him and Hoffman as your 2 kind of backup interior offensive linemen covering those 3 spots.
Okay, we're cutting Nick Brocker. Lyle Collins has already been cut, and then Jerron Christian. I think we can agree on those. So that leaves us with 1 spot between 4 guys. You have Sadiq Charles, Awesome Richards, Hakeem Adeniji, and Ajani Cornelius. Now, something to keep in mind with Sadiq Charles and Hakeem Adeniji, they would not have to clear waivers. So those could be guys you can immediately bring back onto your practice squad as long as they want to come back. However, Awesome Richards would have to clear waivers, and Ajani Cornelius, the 6th-round pick out of Oregon, he would have to clear waivers. Who would you take here, John?
Personally, if it was just a personal preference, I'm still an Awesome Richards fan. I think, especially at tackle, I think he's a bad guard, like not even a competent guard. He's a bad guard because he just doesn't have the play strength to hold up inside. But I thought he put out pretty dang good tape throughout the preseason at tackle, and I think he was better than Adeniji. I thought he was better than any of the other guys at tackle. But it's so marred by his really, really poor play at guard that I think people are kind of missing the forest for the trees there. And I think that he showed that he doesn't have that position flexibility to play guard and tackle. That maybe, if in the coach's mind, maybe that's why they're leaning toward in other directions for this spot. But personally, I would go Awesome Richards. I think I just posted a stat on Twitter yesterday that he didn't lose a single rep in pass protection at tackle the entire preseason. But across, I think he had like 24 pass protection snaps there. But across 44 or 46 pass protection snaps at guard, he got beat 4 times. So I just think that a lot of people that are souring on Awesome Richards are allowing that poor guard tape to cloud their judgment. But I think as a tackle, and I think at this 9th spot, it has to be a tackle. We need a 4th tackle to be a backup just in case, with the way that we've seen injuries snowball at this position in the past. So I would keep Awesome Richards, but I honestly don't think that's what the Cowboys are going to do.
That was going to be my next question. You would keep Awesome Richards. For the sake of this 53-man projection, we're trying to guess what the Cowboys are going to take. Who do you think the Cowboys would take in this spot?
In that case, I think it would be between Hakeem Adeniji and Ajani Cornelius. And honestly, I think the fact that Ajani Cornelius is cheaper, he's younger, he has higher upside. The fact that what you were saying about Hakeem Adeniji, I didn't know that before our little pre-show meeting, and that really changes things, obviously, because your ability to not have to go through waivers. Mm-hmm. So I would go Ajani. Not me. I think they will go Ajani Cornelius because of those factors.
I agree with you. If it were me, I think I would maybe go. Cornelius, just because I think he's shown in the preseason that he can be a reliable pass protector. But I completely respect your opinion on Awesome Richards, because I think he does. He has proved that in games, in NFL regular season games last year. We saw him stepping in for Tyler Guyton and playing well, even if it was in the second halves of blowouts. We saw that happen already. We haven't seen that with these other guys.
Isn't it so weird that he's so much worse at guard, but he says he prefers to play guard than tackle? I've never seen somebody say they prefer to play a position they're worse at.
Yeah, that is a fascinating That is a fascinating one. Sadiq Charles, I think we agree, would probably be on the way out.
Yeah.
You can have 6 veterans on your practice squad. I think you would probably see 2 come from the offensive line, and Hakeem Adeniji and Sadiq Charles. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would. Or Austin Richards, if you can get him there. I'm still on that train.
He wouldn't technically count, I don't think, towards.
Oh yeah. You're talking about just vet. My bad.
Because vet would technically be 4 accrued seasons. He's going.
Yeah. I totally agree what you were saying.
What is the practice squad roster limits at these days? It's 16. However, you can have a 17th if one of them qualifies for the International Pathway Program, which the qualifications for that are super flimsy. Basically, you just have to have a connection to some country other than the United States. And so I think pretty much every team tries to take advantage of it and to find a 17th guy. Last year, that guy was Denzel Daxon. He had a connection to the Bahamas. I don't think he will be the guy this year just because there are so many in this draft class and the undrafted class that would qualify. But we'll see. We'll have to – that's going to be one that'll be tough to predict because, to be honest, with roster cutdown day 48 hours away, I'm not researching which guys qualify for IPP. But we can maybe cross that bridge after the cutdowns on Tuesday. Okay, so we took 9 offensive linemen. I'm going to put a star next to Awesome Richards and Hakeem Adeniji just in case we decide we have 52 guys and we want to circle back later down the line. But as of right now, we have 24 guys on offense that we are rolling with. So that is where we are. Let's flip it to the defensive side. We're going to start with the defensive line. Now, the first question we have to bring to the table, John, is Micah Parsons part of this 53-man roster?
Yes. Next question. Yes. Next question.
I agree with you. But I think don't be surprised maybe if there's some gymnastics happening with Micah Parsons this week when it comes to his roster status, if things really do get out of hand as far as the negotiations and the drama there. Dante Fowler, safe. Donovan Ezeraku, safe. Let's see. Who else we got safe? Solomon Thomas, safe. Marshawn Nealand.
You're just doing – you counted Solomon Thomas as a defensive end?
I'm sorry. We're going defensive line in general here, if that's all right with you. We can go with ends. Let's just go with ends in general. I like that. Let's see. So we got Micah, Dante Fowler, Donovan Ezeraku. Those are your safe – and Marshawn Nealand.
Marshawn Nealand, yeah.
Those are going to be your 4 safe ones. We're trying to take 1 or 2 more here, John.
2.
2?
Because if we don't take 2, then the Cowboys are going to make a very poor decision.
So we got James Houston, Sam Williams, Tyrus Wheat, and Peyton Turner. So you got to cut 2 of those guys. Which 2 are we cutting, John?
We're cutting Tyrus Wheat and Peyton Turner, sir, because James Houston got to be on the roster. You do not let that kind of pass rush help walk away. Like I said in the previous show, the Cowboys had 2 pass rushers that rushed over 75 snaps last year that had over a 10% pass rush win rate. James Houston has had over a 10% pass rush win rate his entire career. Every single season he's been a pro, that he's had at least 100 pass rush snaps. So keep him on the roster, and he's shown the ability to make plays versus the run game. He's shown awareness to be able to sniff out those end arounds, those reverses. He just made so many plays and he has such a unique pass rush talent. His ability to run under a table, use those ghost moves are fantastic. He's got to make the roster, in my opinion. If he doesn't, that's going to be disappointing. Is it something that's going to change the Cowboys season for the worse? No, it's not that big of a deal, but he shouldn't make the roster. The preseason matters, training camp matters. He proved it. I think he's back from his injuries that really hampered him, that really caused his stints with the Lions and I believe the Browns to kind of falter at the end. I think he's back to what he showed really early in his career, and I'm excited. I think he's someone that, if need be, if injuries happen, he's someone you can insert and still get good production out of, which is so valuable at such a valuable position.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% here, John. I think the one thing to watch this week, however, because, again, Cowboys don't listen to us when it comes to decision-making, don't be surprised if it's Tyrus Wheat instead because of his special teams ability. Yeah, do not be surprised. I'm with you, though. I'm taking James Houston here. Peyton Turner, I think, is out, which, man, that would have been crazy to tell me before training camp, I think. I was, strangely confident in Peyton Turner to provide, early down run support. and he just didn't flash anything.
He's just so undisciplined. That's the problem. He has traits that are exciting, but he's so undisciplined. He's not gap disciplined. His pass rush plan is like wonky and very inconsistent from snap to snap. It's not a very coherent plan. I was definitely expecting more out of him as well. Honestly, I was really expecting a lot more out of Sam Williams in the appearances that we had from him. I thought he really disappointed in the times that I was able to see, but obviously he's coming off an injury. You got to give him more time to return to his pre-injury self. So I'm not like super worried about that. But yeah, I was really mildly disappointed with how Peyton Turner performed. But I think a lot of it is that James Houston just took that job. I think he took it. I think he did all the things that he needed to do to make the team. So if he's not going to make the team, then he never had a chance to make the team.
Yeah. And on this roster that was provided by Cowboys PR, they have Ernest Brown listed as a defensive end. We are going to talk about him as a defensive tackle.
Yeah, he's a D-tackle.
I think that's probably just, a healthy misprint. So let's get into these DTs. So 4, 5?
4, I think.
4. Okay, we're going to go, obviously, Osa Odighizuwa, Solomon Thomas. And then you have 2 spots up for grabs between Perrion Winfrey, Jay Toya, Mozzie Smith, and Ernest Brown. We are going to go ahead and cut Tommy Akinbasote from this conversation and Denzel Daxon. So 2 spots with those 4 guys. That's a tough decision to have to make.
Tough, yeah. I think if we're talking about what I would do, for sure, Perrion Winfrey's got to be on the team. He flashed more than any other defensive tackle in the preseason. He wasn't as consistent as I would like from snap to snap, but those high-end plays, I think, are valuable, especially when you're going against guys like Mozzie, who didn't really have many. And then, so for that other spot, if it was me personally, I'd probably take Jay Toya. I'd probably just take Jay Toya just because of the upside. He plays more violent. He plays with a higher motor. He plays with more power. He's bigger. I think that he's younger. He's cheaper. Like, all of those things would point in my direction for him. But we've heard all the rumblings in the past couple of days. I know you've probably heard it. We haven't talked about it, but I think, Jerry Jones is going to make Mozzie Smith safe. So I think what they're going to do is Mozzie and Winfrey and try to get Jay Toya onto the practice squad.
I think
or Toya and Mozzie and get Perry into the practice squad. I could honestly go either way, but I think it will go Mozzie and Winfrey, just because that's the kind of, he has the ability. We've seen him play the 1, the 3, and the 5 technique in the preseason. That kind of versatility. We know how the coaching staff loves that kind of stuff, especially at the end of the roster player. So the fact that Winfrey can give you competent snaps at 3 different spots, I think, is going to give him the tiebreaker over Jay Toya in this hypothetical scenario where we're trying to predict what they're going to do.
Don't kill the messenger. I think Mozzie Smith is going to be on this roster on Tuesday. Sorry, guys. If it were me personally, I'd go Winfrey and Toya, call it a day, and I'd feel comfortable about it. But I do not think that's what the Cowboys are going to do. I think they are going to take Mozzie. I think they're going to take Jay Toya because I think it's easier to keep Toya from being claimed off waivers than it would be Winfrey. And that could be a situation too where you can kind of, if it doesn't work out the first 3-4 weeks of the season, let's say, John, you can flip those 2, put Toya on waivers for 24 hours and try to sneak him back onto your practice squad on like a random Wednesday afternoon in the middle of the season. That happens. It's a lot easier to do that than it would be to do on cutdown day because that name is going to be seen on cutdown day. And there's going to be a team out there that's like, damn, Jay Toya is available. Granted, he did make it to the 7th round. Yeah. So I'm
not that worried about him making it, to be honest. Nose tackles in general, I don't think they get that much play on the waiver wire like that, especially a 7th rounder who, he didn't have like the eye-popping plays in the preseason. He didn't have like a ton of production or anything. So I wouldn't be too worried about him making it to the practice squad. I know I sound like a broken record saying everybody is just going to make it to the practice squad super easy, but with these guys, that's what I believe, honestly. But I totally see what you're coming from, and I would not be surprised if that's what happened. I think there's a viable argument for that, especially like what you said, that Winfrey is easy. And isn't there 2 call-ups every week from the practice squad still or something like that?
Three.
So I could see Perrion Winfrey being that guy as well for the first month of the season.
All right. Producer Caden, why don't you just break the tie for us? I see you have both the graphics down here. Which one do you want? Do you want Winfrey or you want Toya? I think he's going Winfrey here. All right, he's going to side with you here, John.
Winfrey, yes. He's siding with me.
The roster
over boy finally gets one against these Texas boys.
Hey, look, I agree. I would love for this to happen. I just don't think it will. That's where it gets tough.
Rude of you to disagree with me.
I know. How dare I? But we are. It does feel weird cutting Jay Toya. I will say that. So we took 10 defensive line. We could always come back if there's maybe an extra spot. I'll put a star next to Jay Toya's name. Garrett, if Mingo isn't on the initial 53, does that mean one of Overshown or Revel will be? Thought you could only take 2 to IR on cut day. So since they started training camp on the PUP list, and in Revel's case, the NFI list, they could just stay there until they are activated during the season. Same with Josh Butler. So you don't have to do any gymnastics with those guys. You just keep them on that list until they are ready to go down the line. They just have to miss 4 games. All those guys are going to miss 4 games anyway. So that's the gymnastics around that stuff. If they started camp or participated in training camp in any shape, way, or fashion, then that's where they would have to go on the IR, and you got to figure all that shit out. Okay, linebacker. As we mentioned, DeMarvion Overshown already on PUP, so you don't have to worry about that one. We're taking 5 here, right, John?
I think that sounds correct.
Okay, you got the safe guys, in my opinion, Jack Sanborn, Kenneth Murray, Shamar James, Maris Leofau. So that really only leaves you one spot between Damone Clark, Buddy Johnson, and Darius Harris. All 3 of these guys saw time on the active roster last season. All 3 are pretty good special teams players too. This is a tough decision to make, I think. I think this is probably one of the tougher underrated tough decisions you have to make on this roster. Which one are you taking, John?
I think Damone Clark, I think he showed enough in the latter preseason games that gives you confidence that he can step in and be at least competent, as a backup linebacker. I think he can play multiple spots, the Mike and the Will linebacker position. So I think that gives him the versatility that you need in those back end of the roster linebackers. And like you said, his ability on special teams, I think, is also underrated. So I think Damone Clark is the guy that would make the roster in that scenario. And I think looking at this, doing this 53-man roster, really looking at each position with a fine-tooth comb, I'm kind of really impressed with the depth that the Cowboys have at the linebacker position. So I think it's really, I think this is one of their stronger positions, which is not something that we would have said previously.
Yeah, it's completely flipped on its head, which is wild to think about when this time last year, even coming out of that Green Bay loss in the playoffs a couple of seasons ago when it was just Damone Clark, and now you have guys around them. Sneakily, one of the more improved position groups.
So remind me again, the 4 that are for sure going to be there are.
We're going Maris Leofau, Shamar James, Jack Sanborn, and Kenneth Murray. I think
Shamar James was new. I wasn't sure for sure if you said him for some reason. My bad.
And that 5th guy, Damone Clark, we throw him into this mix. And so that puts us at 39 players, John. We're going into the defensive backs and specialists. That's all we got left. We got 14 spots to go between those. The corner spot. Now this is where we maybe start to have some intense debate. Because what do you do about some certain guys? Now, I think it does make the conversation a little bit easier. This morning, as we're recording the show on Sunday, August 24th, this morning, it was announced that Trayvon Diggs did pass his physical and that he will open the season on the 53-man roster, clearing the way for him to play as early as week 1. I don't think it happens week 1, but I think it certainly does happen week 2 or week 3. So Trayvon Diggs, he's on your roster right here. I think because his availability is up for question going into week 1, I think that forces you to take 6 corners, though, so that you have 5 healthy ones in week 1. Do you agree?
We're considering Mukwamu a corner, correct? Or is he a safety?
And that's tough. That's another conversation, because if you're asking me, I would consider him a corner, but he's played so much safety in this preseason and during training camp that it makes me wonder.
He played a ton of outside, too. He played a ton of outside corner, too. So it's like he could kind of stand at both spots. I think he's he's kind of, in my opinion, he's the 10th defensive back that's going to make the roster, whether you call him a safety, call him a corner. I think he's the one that gives you that versatility that he can kind of play both roles.
Okay.
So I think he would kind of be that 10th, whether it's 6 corners and 4 safeties or 5 and 5. I think he is that 10th guy, in my opinion. Okay, and I think the Cowboys are going to do that as well, if I had to guess.
Little housekeeping. Kalen Carson, I expect him to be the other guy that starts on IR, designate to return, so you don't have to put him on the 53 to begin with. So let's get the safe guys out of the way. Also, Savone Rebel, he'll start on NFI. You don't have to do anything with him either. Safe guys, Deron Bland, Trayvon Diggs, Kyer Elam. Who else we got at the corner spot? Booth, I think those are probably – do you consider Booth safe?
I mean, I wouldn't personally.
I wouldn't either. I've seen
that play, a couple times already. But the fact that they held him out of the last preseason game, I think really showed their cards. Because, I mean, unless they were going to trade and they were saving him for a trade, which hasn't occurred, I really don't understand why they would do that unless his spot was safe.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think him not playing against Atlanta is an indication of them trying to keep that corner room as healthy as possible. So that leads me to believe that Booth is on the roster. So that's your fourth corner. Now the slot conversation. Zion Childress, Keemon Hall. You can only keep one of them at this point.
That's easy for me. For me, that's
easy for me too.
I know it might not be easy for the coaching staff, but for me personally, give me Zion Childress. I think he's a more exciting player. He's better against the run, I think. Or at least what he showed in the preseason. I think he's more impactful against the run. He's stickier in and out of breaks in man coverage. I think Keemon Hall is. I think Keemon Hall is a little bit better in zone coverage right now, but I think Zion can improve there. And I think he's definitely the better slot option if you had to choose between the two.
I'm with you. Also, Keemon Hall would not have to clear waivers. Zion Childress would. So that would be a big difference as well. Just some guys that I'm going to go ahead and cut, and let me know if you disagree with one here, John. Robert Rochelle, Josh Butler's going to stay on PUP. Troy Pride, which Troy Pride I think came closer than some realize. And then Michael.
I mean, personally, I liked Troy Pride. I thought he could have potentially been starting caliber, based on how he was playing in the preseason. Obviously, I'm not privy to the stuff that was happening in training camp, but.
Booth looked good at
the fact that he was the one playing the entire game and Andrew Booth was the one sitting on the sideline really shows their hand in that they would keep Andrew Booth over him. And I think that kind of really hurts Troy Pride's ability to make the roster because I think that next corner that's going to be kept has to be one of the slots.
All right, so our corners I think are figured out. We got Trayvon Diggs, Kyer Elam, Andrew Booth, Deron Bland, and Zion Childress, and then Israel Mukuamu is kind of your versatile guy that we'll put in the safety conversation as far as graphics go. And CJ Goodwin, we're going to factor him in with a specialist here in a minute. So those are your corners, your safeties. I think that's probably the easiest conversation you can have right off the top is Donovan Wilson, Malik Hooker, Wanye Thomas, Marquise Bell. Do you have any qualms with keeping any of those guys? Do you maybe think an Elijah Clark could uproot one of those guys maybe?
No, but I would think that Elijah Clark and Mike Smith deserve a shout out for how they performed throughout the preseason, especially that third preseason game. I thought they were both really fantastic for most of the game, and they really put themselves in the discussion to make the roster. I just don't think the numbers are in their favor. I think it would be fantastic if you can get them both to the practice squad and keep them both. I think that's a lot for a practice squad to have 2 safeties, but I think both players have proven that they deserve to be developed, and the fact that we have really swollen practice squads now, like you said, 16, potentially even 17 players on the practice squad. I think that they both have very, very good cases to make it, and if you can do it, I think the Cowboys should.
Humor me here just for shits and giggles. If this team were to put Elijah Clark on the roster, who do you think comes off?
It would have to be Mukuamu.
Okay.
It would have to be.
Yeah. Which that's a fascinating conversation. Mm-hmm. Would you?
No, just because I think Mukuamu has the safety and cornerback versatility when you're looking for that, that 10th defensive back on a roster, being able to play both positions, wear both hats, whereas Elijah Clark, he would need 2 injuries in front of him to really see a lot of time, whereas Mukuamu doesn't need that many, and he can do a lot of different things. He can honestly or be inserted as your dime player immediately. So
Yeah.
I would give it to Mukwamu over Elijah Clark.
And I will mention, I think there are going to be one or two guys on this roster who do not make the initial 53 but play all 17 games this year because of the Trayvon Diggs situation. So you have practice squad elevations. I think you're probably going to see a guy or two get elevated in the first 3 weeks. And then once an injury happens, they swap out with that guy. And that makes it easy as far as roster gymnastics go. All right, so we have 10 defensive backs. We have 4 specialists in Brian Anger, Brandon Aubrey, Trent Sick, CJ Goodwin. We're not cutting Brandon Aubrey.
No, we're not cutting Mr. Butter. Mr. 64-yard boomer, baby. No.
All right.
I love that man.
John, we have 53 guys. We have cut it to 53.
Can I just say that I am so upset that I have to have CJ Goodwin on my 53? I am so mad about this.
Okay, let's do it. Let's cut him. Who are you putting on?
No. I think they're going to do it. We're doing a predictive 53-man roster. So if we're trying to predict what they're going to do, he's going to be on the roster. He's going to play all the games. He's going to be running. He's going to be that gunner week 1. Yeah. So, but I
agree.
Just to dedicate a whole roster spot to a 4th roster spot to a special teams only player who gives you nothing anywhere else. It's like you can't find a 5th or 6th receiver or a 5th or 6th corner. They can be a gunner at like 90% of what CJ Goodwin can do. It just blows my mind. But, they want to do that. That's what they're going to continue to do. And he is a really good gunner, probably, top 10% of gunners in the NFL. He's up there. So he's going to make the roster as much as it pains me.
I'm just saying if we did have to cut him, who would you put on?
I'd probably keep that 10th offensive lineman or keep one. Probably, in my opinion, keep Austin Richards.
Yeah. Gotcha. Over Toya?
Yeah, I would keep Austin Richards over Toya.
Cool. Well, there's our 53, man. That was easier than I thought.
My guy.
This was good. This was fun stuff. It's going to be interesting, and there's going to be moves I think made this week to where it's going to throw a position group that we have in here all the way out of the picture. If Jalen Tolbert gets traded, this completely changes his entire thing.
Let me ask you something. If there's one guy that we left off that you think you would be least surprised actually makes the 53, who would it be?
It'd probably be Jay Toya. Mm-hmm. I'd throw Jay Toya in there, and then, Rivaldo Fairweather.
Nice. And you would say that Tolbert is most likely to get traded?
Yeah, I would say so. Not saying it's going to happen. Don't clip me, guys.
Everybody.
I want to see this on Twitter. I just think it's most likely. If you consider, guys going into contract years that have high value, Jalen Tolbert's not going to have the same amount of opportunities he had last year. It makes the most sense at this point to try to shop Tolbert.
And one more question for me. What if there was one position that you thought the Cowboys would be scouring the waiver claims for? What position would it be? What position should fans be looking at when every team's waivers are coming out?
I found it interesting. There was a report from Todd Archer and ESPN and his 53-man projection that came in on Friday night. He said he expects the team to be aggressive in finding corner help going into this week. Now, that was before the Trayvon Diggs news of him passing his physical. Maybe things are a little bit different now. That's something to keep in mind. If you're asking me, I would probably I'd keep it. I would guess defensive tackle because this team has not said anything that offers confidence in defensive tackles throughout training camp in the preseason.
Totally agree. I think we've been preaching it the entire preseason. I think they need to allocate more resources to that defensive tackle position and specifically the A-gap, one technique nose tackle position. So I would be scouring that. I'd be looking at the Baltimore Ravens, those type of teams, Pittsburgh Steelers, teams that, have definitive, really good nose tackle that usually have a lot of good nose tackle depth. I'd be looking at those guys with a very, very close microscope, trying to see and find improvement there for sure.
I hate to bring up this propaganda here, John, but Big Art number 17 makes a really good point. I'm kind of concerned with us going into the season with undersized defensive tackles and undersized defensive ends. Micah and Donovan Ezraku are undersized defensive ends, and now you want to add a 6'1", 240 defensive end in James Houston. I think it's a good point because if you do want to add a James Houston, you're probably sacrificing size where you could have maybe had it with Peyton Turner or Tyrus Wheat. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Give me productive play over size for no reason. For 500, Alex.
I like baiting you. I think that's going to be my new betting now.
Oh,
John, I don't think you can take
baited. I will take the bait every time, every
I don't
single
think you
time.
can take James Houston, John. Donovan Ezeragu, 20 snaps in a game. I don't know, John. Any last questions in the chat? Please feel free to throw them in. I will go through what's going to happen this week. So the Cowboys will practice tomorrow on Monday, which is kind of interesting. They're going to have one final practice before making roster cut down decisions. The media will have availability at that practice. So I think there's going to be some interesting notes to see that might come out of that. Tuesday will be roster cut down day. There will be availability that day as well to kind of talk about what happened. Wednesday, Thursday, no availability. And then Friday, it is going to be like a normal season Monday, if you will, because we have a short week going into the first week of the season. And then, John, we're rolling right into week fucking 1. Let's get it. Oscar Sullivan, would you like to have Lyle Collins on the practice squad just to help and mentor the young offensive lineman? Absolutely. I think the idea in cutting him today, 48 hours before cutdown day, is to give him an opportunity to find a roster spot elsewhere. If he does not, it would not surprise me if Lyle Collins is back on the team. The only thing that might prevent him from doing so, they have a lot of veterans that would make sense to put on the practice squad. They can only keep 6 of them. So they can only keep 6 guys on the practice squad that have more than 4 accrued seasons. So something to keep in mind, I think, going into this week. And look at Ben trying to bait as well.
Hey, Ben, stop trying to get me riled up. And arm length matters. It just doesn't matter nearly as much as what everybody tries to tell you. We'll get into that at some point. It's one of my favorite rants every year.
That sounds like a really good middle of the offseason / draft season conversation to have.
Got all these nerds trying to tell me that arm length matters. Get in the trenches and find out it doesn't.
Yeah, you're going to see some T-Rexes that are just fine. Carl Lawson, our favorite T-Rex ever.
Yeah. And he wins with the long arm. His best move is a long arm, and he has 31.5-inch arms.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Put on your tinfoil hats, fellas. Let's go.
John, I appreciate you, man. This is a great show. We had more live viewers in this episode than we've ever had combined, I think, in our first 5 episodes. So we appreciate everybody for checking in, giving us good engagement. For producer Caden in the back, really appreciate you. John, really appreciate you. Any last thoughts?
No, thank you guys. Really appreciate y'all. Have fun. I know a big thing now. Have fun in your fantasy football drafts. I know Labor Day coming around. Everybody's drafting. If you guys want, go subscribe over to PFF. I think we have the best in class fantasy tools. You know, guys like Nathan Yonke, John Macri putting in incredible work there. So please go subscribe if that's something that you like. If not, keep joining us for the cross chop for your Cowboys news and analysis, my guys.
Oscar Sullivan, can I beat John Machota in a 40-yard
I would hope so.
John is a sneaky great athlete, even at 40+ years old. Yes, a former basketball player. And I don't know. Let me lose 10 pounds, and I think I could take John. But give me 2 or 3 months. John, I appreciate you, man. We're gonna get out of here. We're gonna come back at some point this week. We both have crazy schedules this week. We will let you guys know. Stay tuned to our Twitters. That's at John Owning for him. For me, it's at Nick Harris, FWST. Stay blessed, everybody. Really appreciate y'all for checking in. For producer Caden in the back and John, I'm Nick. We'll see you next time.